Our next message in Exodus is Exodus chapter 24. In this chapter we have the covenant reinstated, and then we have a meal, and that's that we're going to look at later on. But let's pick it up with verse 1. Now he said to Moses, that's God, come up to the Lord, you and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worshipped from afar. And Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come near, nor shall the people go up with him. Then we jump across to verse 9. Then Moses went up, also Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and they saw the God of Israel. Here we see that they got a glimpse of the glory of God. And there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, that was like the very heavens in its clarity. But on the nobles of children of Israel he did not lay his hand. So they saw God, and they ate and drank. Verse 12. Then the Lord said to Moses, come up to me on the mountain and be there, and I will give you tablets of stone, and the law and commandments which I have written, that you may teach them. Really it's 10, 11, 12 they want to think about. First of all, the fact that they saw the God of Israel. They saw something of the glory of God, and then they ate and drank. Verse 11 seems to be a covenant meal, and then the commands in verse 12, come up to me on the mountain and be there, or stay there. Some translations have I will give you the law and the commandments, and then they were to be taught, that you may teach them to the Israelites. So here we see in this chapter that Moses was given an invitation to come up to God, mentioned in verse 1. And of course, in verses 9 and 10, which we looked at, we see the obedience of Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu. And the scripture says, as we read, they saw the God of Israel. They got a glimpse of the glory of God. And then in verse 11 we read that they ate and drank, and this speaks of a covenant meal where they saw God and they ate and drank. And the idea is that they took part in the covenant meal with God himself. And that's quite an amazing thing, but that's what happened. But there are four things Moses was to do. Excuse me. The first thing was he was invited to come up unto me in the mountain. And it shows us that God wants us to have fellowship with him every day. And this is no change from the Garden of Eden, Genesis chapter 3. Where art thou? It wasn't Adam and Eve calling out to God. It was God calling for Adam and Eve. And we see that God still wants us as Christians to have fellowship with him. 1 John 1 says, truly our fellowship with the Father and with his Son Jesus Christ. And those times of connection with God, prayer, the Word, spending time with Christians, listening to Christian songs, are so crucial in our lives. The second thing was there was to be consecration. He was to stay there. That's very significant. Moses was to wait upon God, to be instructed. And of course, one of the challenges of the Christian life is for us to wait upon God. Isaiah 40:31, those that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not be faint. And there Moses waited upon God. Thirdly, we see he was instructed by God. God said, I'll give you the laws and the commandments. And of course he was to receive the stone commandments, and of course they had to wait upon God to be instructed by God. And Psalm 32 says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you shall go. But here we see Moses had to wait upon God to get instructions. And then the last aspect was there was the communication. God communicated the laws and the commandments to Moses, and he was to teach them. And so Moses had to wait upon God to get his instructions so that he would communicate God's mind and truth through his word. And of course, when we think of the significance of this chapter, it will go on to talk about the tabernacle and the construction of the tabernacle, which really involves the rest of the book of Exodus. The last sort of 16 chapters will revolve around the instruction that Moses is given. And so those four things remind us of the invitation. We're invited to fellowship with God. Secondly, we're to be consecrated, we're to wait there, wait in his presence, we're to be instructed, and then we are to communicate divine truth through his word. Thank you for listening.